Oh yeah, can you feel that? Can you feel that, listeners? What is up, guys? Mike Marlinsky here with the Metal Webzine. Welcome to episode 21 of All the Metal Podcast. Today we are discussing Savatage. In case you didn't recognize that song, that's the title track off Gutter Ballet. I'll be calling Greg Pasquale in just a minute to talk about Savatage. We're going to kick off our Taj cast, but for right now, I'm just going to do my little intro really quick. Savatage is an American heavy metal band founded by the brothers John and Criss Oliva in 1979 at Astro Skate in Tarpon Springs, Florida. The band was first called Avatar, but shortly before the release of their debut album Sirens in 1983, they changed their name to Savatage, as Avatar was already taken by another band. Savatage is considered a significant member of the American heavy metal movement of the early to mid-1980s and has been cited as a key influence on many genres such as power metal, progressive metal, speed metal, thrash metal, death metal, and symphonic metal. Savatage has released 11 studio albums, 2 live albums, 4 compilations, and 3 EPs. The band first reached substantial commercial success with its third studio album, Fight for the Rock, in 1986. Which peaked at number 158 on the Billboard 200. Its next 4 albums, Hall of the Mountain King in 1987, Gutter Ballet in 1989, Street, a rock opera in 1991, and Edge of Thorns in 1993 were also successful, but more critically acclaimed than Fight for Rock. On October 17, 1993, 6 months after the release of Edge of Thorns, guitarist Criss Oliva was killed in a car accident. Following his death, John, along with producer Paul O'Neill, decided to continue Savatage in memory of his brother. The band released 4 more studio albums and went through several lineup changes before going on an extended hiatus in 2002. During the years, partly even before the hiatus, members founded various new bands such as John Oliva's Pain, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Circle to Circle, and Dr. Butcher. On August 2nd, 2014, Savatage announced that they were reuniting for the 2015 Wacken Open Air, although they discussed the possibility of more shows and new music. The band has not performed live since their 2015 appearance at Wacken Open Air Festival, nor released an official statement regarding their future. Alright, I am done here, and I am going to give Greg a call. Stay tuned. Bum, 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 bum. How's it going?
It's going, man. How about yourself?
Oh, it's going very well. That's Big Greg on the phone, ready to do the Taj cast. Are you excited?
That's right. Yeah, I am. Like I said, it's not really a band that a lot of people have kind of analyzed in depth or anything. It's kind of one of those appreciated but overlooked bands, in my opinion. So I'm really excited to kind of talk about it, and hopefully anyone unfamiliar might get the itch to explore further as well.
Right. Well, we know a big reason that they are overlooked, so we'll get into that later. Hang on, I just want to grab my notes really quick.
It's a very weirdly, oddly, fate-twisted, bittersweet success story in some weird way, convoluted way. It's very unique to me.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm ready if you are.
Yes, sir.
Alright, you're good? Okay. Choose one, Fight for the Rock, Hail to the Mountain King, or Gutter Ballet.
It's tough. Well, I know it's not Fight for the Rock. Man, that's really tough. It could either be Gutter or Hall of the Mountain King, but I think I'd probably go with Hall of the Mountain King.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the most. It's maybe not the album that best represents like the best that band did across the board.
Right.
It could probably be Gutter Ballet, but but I just think that I don't know. There's like a dark vibe on Hall of the Mountain King, which is made even cooler considering how they a lot of people viewed the album before Fight for the Rock as kind of like a misstep. So, and they came back slinging on all the Mountain King. You definitely hear they got a little extra pep in their step and an extra nut in the sack too. You know.
Yeah. I think, aside from yourself, the only person I've really talked to about Savatage is Rob from Music Matters, and he said the same thing about Mountain King.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's I don't know. Gutter Ballet is my favorite, but I mean, I can see where you guys are coming from for sure.
If I were to tell, if someone wanted to know what record would best describe Savatage, it would be, for me, it would be Gutter Ballet.
Yeah, for sure.
It covers everything. Again, it pretty much encompasses everything that they did at their best on that record. There's heavy stuff, there's the, symphonic stuff, there's just like, that's just...
Yeah, it's a pretty versatile album for sure.
A culmination of a period in time for them.
Yeah, definitely. So, given Criss's death, how do you feel about the direction Savatage went in after Edge of Thorns?
That is... it's really, really tough to analyze the post-Criss Oliva era of the band without sounding disparaging, because it just... Today, when I was, because I knew obviously we were going to, it's impossible to talk about the Savatage story without discussing the impact of Criss Oliva, and I was thinking, just off the top of my head, I couldn't really think of a metal band that suffered worse from losing a member. And I mean, it might be Savatage. I mean, again, I don't really want to fucking run them down.
Right.
But...
Well, you feel the way you feel, so...
I have so much respect for them, even though, like, after the Criss, full disclosure right off the bat, the post-Criss Oliva material really leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion. And it's obvious that he was the magic bullet in that band, for me at least. Like, no matter how far they pushed it, he was always there to kind of keep an edge on, no pun intended, Edge of Thorns. But, he always maintained an edge in like a just a snarling side of that band with his guitar playing and his riffing and his leads. And once that was gone, it was almost like him and his brother, like they were the push-pull that really stirred the drink of that band. And without his pushback on John Oliva, I feel like John Oliva really pushed that band into a overly I don't know, just it was missing. It is noticeable. The record after he left, Handful of Rain, there's a few tracks in there that are really good, but the 3 records that followed are just, they kind of disappeared.
Well, years later,
they tried to do these concept records. They tried to be super melodramatic, and they went too far.
Yeah, well, years later,
they have a song on the street. It started on the street. They tried to do a fucking rock opera, but there was Criss Oliva there to kind of balance out the weightiness and the over dramatic of it all. And after he was gone, it just all the fangs were filed down.
Yeah, because years later, John Oliva had said in an interview that he meant to continue the band as an homage, and he did eventually feel that the band died with Criss, in a way.
Yeah, and it really did, and it's a shame. And I do think, another thing that kind of confused me about the post-Criss Oliva stuff is that Trans-Siberian Orchestra, was in the mix by the time Savatage called it quits for think it was maybe 2002 or 2003. So I never understood why they continued to do the kind of stuff that they did when they had TSO as that outlet. But, I'm probably getting way ahead of ourselves. But yeah, I agree with John Oliva. If he thinks the band died in 1993, then I'd be hard pressed to disagree with that. It certainly sounds like it,
Yeah, right.
And also, to be fair, and another reason why I don't want to dump too much on him is because this was probably a really fucking difficult thing for John Oliva to have to go through.
Right.
He formed that band with his brother. They toured all over the world together, and it was like their dream. It was like their childhood dream, that band.
Yeah, how is he supposed to write creatively and write to the best of his ability with his brother gone? Yeah.
It's got to be, it's one of those things that it's the intangible. It's the X factor that you can't just plug someone else in there,
Right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think that Steve's nickname, Doc Killdrums, was well earned?
I mean, I've heard all those stories, too. I mean, apparently he got that nickname because he just fucking shred drums when they started. Is that what it was, right?
He just hits that hard.
Yeah, I never...
Heavy-handed. But I couldn't tell. I've never been able to tell.
He looks like he's hitting hard in the music videos. I mean, I don't fucking know. It's a cool nickname, though. Yeah,
you want to look great in the video, but you don't know, to what extent he's actually doing it, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he had a lot of bass drums. I think that's a little goofy, but, whatever. It's part of the era, I suppose. But, I mean, he was definitely a good drummer. They had that original lineup, or the classic lineup, I guess I'll say. They had a chemistry, and the best stuff was with him in the band. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Whether or not he was actually fucking just destroying drums so hard. I mean,
yeah.
I don't
murdering drums,
that,
right.
I would hope he would have earned that nickname. They wouldn't just fucking given it to him. Or maybe it was ironic. Maybe he was actually...
Maybe he was terrible and they were making fun of him, right.
Maybe he just like it was just like a joke,
Yeah. What's your opinion on the Avatar cover of Van Halen's Eruption from the footage that was released in 2006?
That parking lot video?
Whatever they put out in 2006, there were a couple Van Halen covers.
I saw... It was a video you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the video footage, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was in a parking lot or something, like a show in a parking lot. And I thought it was cool. I mean, it was definitely, emblematic of the era.
Right.
Criss Oliva, one of the things that I thought really made him special was, I mean, besides the fact that he had a tone that I've never heard anyone else have, and I spot him, from a mile away. Like, I can still hear that guitar tone. He has this snarling tone, and just this technique it was familiar, but it was unique, you know what I'm saying? And so, them covering Van Halen, that's not a surprise. That wasn't a surprise to me at all, because you could definitely hear that Criss Oliva was a bit of an Eddie kid,
Yeah, hugely influenced, yeah, of course.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say he was an Eddie clone, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was alright. I mean, I'm sure that was, at that point, they were probably one of, 1,000 bands doing those songs.
Doing it, yeah.
Yeah.
If you can do it, do it. Which was a better rock opera, Streets or Dead Winter Dead?
Well, I mean, Streets easily, because Criss Oliva's on it. Dead Winter Dead, I could never get into it, and I never bought it. Every time I heard something, except for, oddly enough, that album is a huge part of the Savatage story, but not necessarily because it's particularly great, in my opinion.
Sure.
Because of a song they did that they renamed as another band, and they finally got it.
Yeah, and that's what broke them. Yeah. That, in a way, technically, Dead Winter Dead is what broke them, but not with that moniker.
Yeah, which is kind of like, it's like one of those backhanded, it's almost like a slap across the face, if you think about it.
Right, sure.
They were that band for so long, they put so many years into that band, and, fucking one of them even lost their goddamn lives, and and then they finally break it, and it's only because they just switched the title of the band and they put the same song out twice.
I read today that John Oliva once said that it got to the point where TSO was selling 40,000 tickets a day or 40,000 tickets an event, something like that, something crazy like that. And
yeah, well, I mean, look, they come to Buffalo, they do 2 shows.
They do however many shows. But yeah, what I'm saying is like, what John Oliva said was that, he could recall Savatage tours, like full tours, where they did not play for 40,000 people total that entire tour.
Yeah.
So the numbers are just ridiculous.
Quote, I read some quote where he said, I think the last 10 years of Savatage, like it cost him. It cost
him money, yeah. And now you ask the average, Trans-Siberian Orchestra fan who Savatage is, they don't know. Nobody even knows.
But here's the thing, though. They know, but they don't know, because they're getting Savatage in the shows. I know that there's actually been tours where they've squeezed Savatage songs in the set list.
Yeah, they like Savatage songs that they don't know are Savatage songs,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, that's the crazy... That's like the fucking... That's why they have a unique story that I can't think of it being comparable to any other band. Where they're successful, but they're super successful as a band, but no one knows. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. Sure.
It's like, it must be like someone who invents, I don't know, someone who invents something and they never become known, but the name of the thing they produce
is huge, right? Yeah.
Huge,
Yeah.
So it's Savatage is, again, I can't think of any other band that has a story like that.
Right. Okay, so yeah, that's basically the next question. When it comes to Savatage's commercial success versus Trans-Siberian Orchestra's, was it really as simple as changing the name?
I think it was, well, no, because it's never as simple as just changing the name. It was a total repackaging, I mean, it's, because you could, put them in Europe, and, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, I mean, you could easily, depending on how you construct the logo and the album cover, you could easily, line those up with, like, Stradivariuses and all those kinds of Euro metal, bands. Like, you could do that with the right packaging, with the right artwork. But it was a total remodeling, basically. I mean, they had the fucking, the first album cover, there was a fucking Christmas tree on the cover, and the Trans-Siberian Orchestra is in, like, elegant cursive, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, it was just, like, it was totally off the wall. I mean, it was just, like, they just rebuilt the house. It's like, they demolished the house, rebuilt it exactly the same,
right?
And they just painted it in a different color.
They painted it in a different, I was just going to say that.
I'll never forget how I found out about Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I was, it was probably 97, maybe, I think, and I was staying up, and fucking Conan O'Brien was on it. He's like, up next is Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And I was, the internet wasn't what it was now. You don't know about, like, there was still, like, a mystique about some bands. Like, we didn't read about it, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, we were still so dependent on monthly publications that stuff could fly right by you. You have no idea. And I'll just never forget Conan O'Brien going, and there's Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and I was just counting off the members of the band. Like, I was like, wait a minute, that's Al Charlie. Wait a minute, that's Chris Cafferty. Wait a minute, that's fucking John Oliva. Like, I was like, wait a minute, this is Savatage. And it was totally mind-boggling. It was Savatage and Cisco. Basically, that's the difference.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I know what you're gonna say about this. Compare Wake of Magellan and Poets and Madmen to previous releases.
They are just not interesting to me at all.
Not at all?
I had Wake of Magellan, and that was just like,
Okay, because you said not interesting, let me follow that up. Because this is something that you've said about Dave Mustaine before. Have you, in your opinion, released better albums have you released better albums than Wake of Magellan and Poets and Madmen?
I mean, here's the difference between the questions. Dave Mustaine definitely has asshole moments, so it's easy to feel good talking shit about a guy like that. I don't want to do that to John Oliva.
Sure.
You know?
No, I totally understand. Totally understand.
You know, like, you know what? I'll repurpose that question. Have I released records that I enjoy more than those records? Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I have. Whether it's better or not, that's about to be decided. But I will say that, you know, I've put out, you know, I'll say any record I ever put out has been more interesting than those two records.
All right,
I'll
then.
say any record I put out, I've enjoyed
more.
A lot more than the last 4 Savatage albums.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How did you feel about John Oliva's Pain?
You know what? To me, it was just kind of like along the same lines. You know, it was just, it wasn't bad. Admittedly, I'm not like a huge fan of it, but it's not terrible, but it doesn't really, I don't know, it doesn't grab me. Again, it's just, he's super talented songwriter, but it just, I don't know, there wasn't really anything there for me. It wasn't, again, I've heard some stuff off of it that was pretty cool out of that project, but just nothing that ever just kind of grabbed me by the throat. Like,
yeah, I get that. Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, it's fun. I would love to sit down and talk to that dude. I mean, I could just pick his brain for hours.
Right. If any, what are some Trans-Siberian Orchestra songs or albums that you do enjoy?
I had the first record.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest selling record I've did. I lost it in one of my moves. And
sure.
I never rebought it. But, you know, I think their appeal is, you know, obviously the music, but I think their biggest appeal is their presentation, which unfortunately I still have yet to fucking see that band live, but I've seen the videos, and it looks like it's fucking 4th of July.
No, I've seen him once. I've seen him once. It was maybe 12 years back, and it was a phenomenal show. Like, it's something that everybody who's a fan of this kind of music should see at least once in their lives.
I know that they played, I think, in Mississippi, like maybe, it was definitely over a decade ago, and they blew the power. They blew the power grid of the city.
Oh, no shit.
They had so much, you know, you know, going on with the show. They required so much power and electricity that they ended up just tanking the grid, apparently.
Right. Yeah, that does not surprise me.
That's impressive.
Right.
That's impressive, but I also heard that luckily, they're always a top grossing tour. But I think I read somewhere that their show cost like $1 million a month or something like that.
Right. Yeah, probably. But you know what? I mean, how much money are they making off tickets for every event? It's insane, yeah.
Well, exactly. If you think about it, they're doing a lot of the shows like they do at Buffalo. They're doing an afternoon and weekend performance, so they're doing 2 sets a day, probably. So.
Yeah. It's crazy shit.
Yeah, I know.
Your favorite Savatage album?
Yeah, that's tough. I was able to take Mountain King on 3 choices 3 before, but I think if I were just to take in even the entirety of the totality of their discography, I would have to go with Gutter Ballet.
Oh, hell yeah. Abso-fucking-lutely.
To me, that was the record where they nailed it. They didn't go so far over the line of, like, videos or
right.
Stuff like that. They nailed it there, and they still had songs that were tough, and they still had, a song about, getting head.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a versatile album, and the apex of everything they are is present on that album, every aspect of it.
They touched every record up to that point on that record.
Yes.
I think Gutter Ballet is...
Yeah, the culmination, like you said, for sure. Your least favorite Savatage album?
I don't know. I would have to say one of the last three, but I would say because I never even bought Poets of Madman because Wake Magellan I dislike so much. But,
yeah.
I would say
turned you off.
I would go with Wake Magellan. It was like it was weird. It was like adult contemporary. I don't even know what it was. But
I've never heard it.
I should probably give it another gander, but if it's, what I remember it to be, then I have listened to it in 2 decades. But man, it's just, I don't know. At that point, I kind of, it was kind of tough. Like I said, it's not like Megadeth where I enjoy, or anyone who's really just kind of a dickhead or an asshole, where it's really easy and enjoyable to just kind of like take them down a peg or two and just fucking knock them off their pedestal and just, really just take shit on them, It's not like that with Savatage. They put out records that just didn't interest me anymore. But again, I just don't feel right letting them down because I just have so much respect for John Oliva. And the fact that he even tried to continue that band, after his fucking brother died, it's an admirable pursuit. It's really tough to kind of shit talk that. He fucking kept that band going at a loss, mind you. he had no financial gain whatsoever in continuing that band.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just going to continue costing him money.
I'm reticent to kind of talk shit about those records, even though I don't really like them. It doesn't feel right talking shit about them. I guess I kind of am,
but you know his story. You have a connection to him, so.
Yeah, I don't feel good about. I don't feel good not liking those records.
No, I know what you mean.
It makes me feel bad because you separate the art from the artist, and it's like, well, he's doing something that's very noble, and it just doesn't work with me, But the ethos behind it is certainly commendable.
Yeah, but after Criss, it just didn't feel right.
No, I mean it's just, again, I can't stress it. I just can't think of a band that just lost so much of what was great about them right then and there.
Okay, so what Savatage riffs, licks, or songs have you learned on guitar, and which are your favorites?
Well, I used to know. I'm trying to think because Hall of the Mountain King was a record. I'm trying to think. Hall of the Mountain King and Sirens were really important records for me as far as like kicking my technical prowess up a notch. And again, Criss Oliva was one of those dual threats on guitar. He was a lot of guys in that era. They had either riffs or they had the solos. There was clearly a disparity to varying degrees as far as which side they were stronger on. Some of them were stronger on lead, others were stronger. If you get what I'm saying. He was kind of even keeled. He could kill you with a sick riff as fast as he could kill you with a slick lead. and so clearly when I was like 15 or 16, I was, the ability to play any of the solos was, there wasn't even a fucking hope in hell, or that was just so far out of my wheelhouse that I never dreamed I'd be able to play anything you could on guitar, but lead-wise, but like his riffs, the Oliva octave, he had a way of incorporating these sliding, octave parts, which generally a lot of people just kind of use for layering purposes. He was able to kind of, well, at least as far as what I knew up to that point, he was able to kind of make that a signature part of his riffing style. He would just kind of weave these sliding octave melodies within the riff, and it's super influential. It sounded so cool to me, and I got such a kick out of playing those riffs that it just left an indelible mark on me. I fucking do the Oliva octaves in basic. I mean, it's all over me,
Yeah.
Fucking
sure.
It's I've done the Oliva octave. I think probably on every record I've ever done. And so anyway, consequently, I don't remember. I don't remember if I knew an entire song. I think I knew. Bear in mind, these are songs I knew minus the solos. I knew Devastation, Total Devastation. I don't remember, is it Devastation or Total Devastation? I know the chorus that he says Total Devastation. But anyway, I digress. I remember, let's see, I knew how to play, Devastation, I'm sorry. I knew how to play Devastation, I knew how to play Price You Pay, Strange Wings, Up All the Mountain King, I knew how to play Sirens, and what else is there? They also have a few songs that aren't really particularly guitar heavy. They're more song heavy, or they're not really riff heavy. They're song heavy.
Yeah.
Like, so, there's songs like When the Crowds Are Gone are kind of like just really chord based. So I knew songs like that. I knew riffs in Mentally Yours, The Unholy. I knew a lot of these. I knew a lot more of these riffs than I thought I did. I knew how to play Edge of Thorns. There's a riff right before the solo section, Edge of Thorns, which is just, it's so fucking awesome. It's still so much fun to play. That's another thing too that was great about Criss Oliva, is that his riffs had like a certain kind of like jump to them.
Right.
You could really just lay the anchor in on them and just really just kind of hammer them. He just had like this really weird style. It was like, for riffs, it was like this really dramatic European evil Van Halen thing. Like it's almost
I
like
get that.
He was like a cross between. It's almost like if he was the next step after Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads. Like you could probably squeeze him in between Randy Rhoads and like Yngwie. Like as far as like the chain of styles. Like he was like a combination of kind of like, he had like the dark European vibe of like a Ritchie Blackmore. He had the explosiveness of Eddie Van Halen, and he had like the classical, flair like Randy Rhoads did. So his riffing style was really, really interesting because it kind of covered a lot of ground.
Sure.
So I had a lot of, I totally derailed from the initial question, as I inevitably always do. But I had a lot of fun trying to figure out his riffs. You know what? Fuck, the biggest. This was the main riff in Holocaust on the Sirens album. That was probably like the one that really cemented the like whole Oliva octave thing in my style, because it just got such a cool it's just got full movement to it. You should check it out. It's, and then learn how to play that riff, dude. It's fucking fun.
Oh yeah, okay.
Learn how to play the main riff of Holocaust. Like, if you learn how to play that, dude, you just got like a jump to it.
Sure. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I can't even hear it. I can't even hear what you're talking about. So I'll check it out.
Yeah, it rules. I knew some of the stuff on Streets too. I think I knew Sammy and Tex, and some of the title track too. Actually, I kind of had a little nod to the title track in a Savatage song.
Oh, really?
Too.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What song? What Savatage song was that?
I never really sat down and thought about how many Savatage riffs I knew how to play, and fuck, I knew quite a few.
Which Savatage song had the Savatage nod?
Oh, that's up for me to know, and you find out.
Ah, I see. Okay, so where am I at right now? Yeah, I mean, you pretty much already answered this. I was going to ask you to talk about how Criss Oliva has influenced you as a guitar player, but you pretty much already covered all that.
Well, I could definitely talk more. I mean,
no, I would love for you to talk more. I would love for you to talk more.
Well, I could probably. I mean, I guess I could, weave it into. I mean, it does involve fucking 103.3 the Fox again. I mean, are we at the point where I need to go over like the personal history between me and band, or do you want me to hold off on that?
I mean, I would just stick to guitar for this portion.
All right. I just think that he had a unique voice on the instrument, and again, it's one of those things that it's important identifiability. To have a unique individual voice in a field of, hundreds of thousands or millions of guitar players, to be able to stand out and have a voice unique enough that it could be kind of picked out, just like that. To me, that's super special. And he had that. And it's not missed by just Savatage. I feel like it's missed by the world. It's the ultimate tragedy.
Sure.
For an artist to kind of get cut down in their prime like that. It's the classic coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Right.
What would it's kind of like it's a bittersweet, fun thing to play when you think about what he would have done had he not passed away. It's the same thing with guys like, Criss Oliva, Randy Rhoads, Cliff Burton, guys like that. Peggy, you always wonder what the unique ones would have done had they not died. And that's unfortunate that's really only just a guessing game. We'll never know. And that's a shame. Because these are people who had a lot of music in them. But what they say, it's like that old cliche, burn brightest, burn out fastest, so it's the way of the world, I suppose, unfortunately. But yeah, I really wish he had stuck around. I really think, I think to have had him, I would have loved to have seen him enjoy the success of Trans-Siberian Orchestra, because he no doubt would have been in that. But also, you could argue, if he doesn't die, does TSO ever even happen?
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah, that was going to be another question of mine. I mean, I took it off my list, but I was going to ask you, that hypothetical question, in a world where Criss Oliva did not die, where does that take Savatage, and is there even a Trans-Siberian Orchestra?
I think that's a very good question, and I think that it's I don't. Well, yeah. Now that I say that, and I kind of rethink it, I do think there's a possibility TSO happens if he doesn't pass away, strictly because of this. Now, obviously, after the Streets album, which, well, we haven't even really talked about that a whole lot yet either, which I could fucking go way into that, but after the Streets album, John Oliva stepped aside as far as being an active touring member of the band. He was still going to be involved in songwriting and, probably some, production and managerial type stuff, but he was going to step out of an active role in the band, which is why they got a new singer on Edge of Thorns, Zach Stevens. And so he kind of bailed because he was going to try and do, I think, a Broadway musical with Savatage's producer slash songwriter, just general conspirator, Paul O'Neill. And he was going to do Broadway stuff and kind of more, for the lack of a better term, more musical things, meaning actual musicals, and the only reason he came back into the band is because Criss Oliva, his brother, died. But had Criss not died, I still think it's possible TSO could have happened, regardless of that, which I'm sure he wouldn't have fucking cut his brother out of that piece of that pie.
Sure, right.
But I do also think Savatage would still be a band.
Oh, I think so too.
And because that was that was their bond, that was their love, that was their dream, and I do think you know what, I take it back. I do think TSO would happen, but I also think Savatage is still a band. And I'm pretty fucking damn sure that the last 4 records or 3 records are a lot better, and I hate to say that, but it's noticeable. I mean, if you listen to Edge of Thorns and you listen to Handful of Rain, I mean, solo-wise, they didn't lose any ground because they got fucking Alex Skolnick to be the lead guitarist on Handful of Rain. So they didn't lose any ground as far as the lead guitar is concerned. But if you listen to the riffs on Handful of Rain, I think they were all played by John Oliva and Paul O'Neill. Skolnick just did the solos on it. But you can tell the riffing is different. There's none of the Criss Oliva flair.
Well, wasn't there a competition as to who could play Criss Oliva's solos the best? Because who ended up taking
how they ended up with Skolnick in the band?
Yeah, I was gonna say, who was it who ended up being the guy who strictly played Criss Oliva's solos on the older material?
I don't really know about that. I know that Skolnick ended up in the band because he had management. He had just left Testament, I think right around the time Criss Oliva died, and they shared management with Testament, or Savatage. And they said, they are looking to continue on. Would you be interested in joining the band? And he turned it down. And John Oliva called him and said, listen, I know you said there's no interest, but, all the music is done. We just need someone to come down and play the leads. And, I know my brother. He would want you to do this.
Oh, okay, right.
So I don't know if there was I don't know if they auditioned anyone else, but I know I saw an interview with Alex Skolnick, and that's what he said. He said he turned down the gig, but then John Oliva called him. He said, listen, I know my brother would really have wanted you to do this. And then I think after that, Skolnick did the touring cycle for it, but that was really all about it. I don't know if there was anyone else ever in consideration for that.
Right.
But you can't ever go wrong with getting Alex Skolnick in on it.
Sure. And that's a beautiful story, too. Like, my brother would have wanted you to be here, so you should be here.
Well, yeah, I mean, and they knew each other. I know Testament and Savatage did some touring in the early 90s, and I remember I read an interview in like a guitar magazine when I was a kid, right around the time Handful of Rain came out. It was with Skolnick, and he was talking about how when he was, I think, like a teenager, probably before he was even in Testament, he used to tape trade Savatage stuff with his friends. He got the Savatage. He got the Sirens album like by way of tape trading or something like that, like before it came out or some shit like that. So he was a fan of the band, going back to the inception of the band. So he had a familiarity and a respect and a like for that material. So it was kind of like after Testament, he wasn't really looking to play metal again. He wanted to really branch out and start playing jazz, but then that offer came in, and it was like, well, this was, he had said something like, well, I wasn't really looking to play metal anymore, but this was a different kind of metal. This wasn't thrash. This was stuff that was more in line with the stuff I grew up with, because this was the stuff I listened to when I was growing up. Literally, this band is something I was listening to when I was growing up. So it's a cool story,
Yeah. I mean, the last question I had was about your personal connection to the band. So, I mean, if you want to talk about Streets, if you want to talk about 103.3 The Fox, I mean, the floor is yours.
Yes and yes. Right, so,
yes to both of those.
The first ever heavy metal magazine I ever bought was Metal Edge magazine, and I think it was I'm trying to remember I think it might have been like the July or August 1993 issue, and in it there was an ad for the new Savatage album called Edge of Thorns, and I had that ad on my bedroom wall for, holy shit, I don't even know how many years, from the time I bought that magazine until I finally moved out of my parents' house when I was like 26 or 27 or whatever. So it's probably, that picture was probably on my bedroom wall for 15 years, and it was this really badass looking picture, and it had like a really threatening phrase on it. It says like, "No good deed goes unpunished," and it had like a, the album cover was really cool too. It was a drawing of like a scantily clad woman holding a rose by like a creek in like a forest, and like the branches of the trees create like a demonic face. You gotta check that shit out, dude. It's
right.
Awesome.
Yep.
But turns out it's actually Criss Oliva's wife who was the model for the album cover. But and around that time, 103.3 The Fox, our trusty old friend and root of all evil apparently, they started playing the song, the title track from that album, Edge of Thorns, and they played it quite a bit, and I really, really like that song. Also, on top of that, that year's edition of MTV's The Real World, which I believe might have been the second season, I think, the title track, the song Edge of Thorns, was a big part of that season. They played that song a lot during that season of shows, and so it got a lot of airplay. I think it might have been, I don't know if I read it correctly, but that might have been, that's, another one of those things that makes, besides the fact that it's a loss of life, it's another one of those things that kind of makes that band story so tragic, is that they for years were trying to break through, and then they finally did this song to a degree. And, album sales were up, and then the Criss Oliva thing happened. I think Criss died October 93. That's when he got killed in that car accident.
Yep. The drunk driver, yep.
And, yeah, that's right. It was him and his wife. His wife...
Oh, I actually did not know that. I did not know there was somebody else in the car.
His wife was in the car as well. She got injured pretty bad, but I think she never...
She lived?
...recovered. And she lived, but she died very young. I think she died 10 years later.
Oh, no shit.
I don't know if she ever, I don't know if she ever, emotionally recovered from that.
Right.
So she died, not at that time, but she died very young, if I remember correctly. But, yeah, I remember when the 3.3 The Fox announced it, I was, because I really liked, that song, and then I think maybe a year later I got around finally to buying the Edge of Swords album, and then after that, this is one of the benefits of being a metal kid in the 90s, was that people were gleefully, seemingly ditching their metal records out of their collection because they just weren't into it anymore. So I was in music class with a guy named John, and I don't know if for show and tell day for music class or show and play. I don't remember if I brought in Edge of Thorns, but he was like, "Oh man, you like Savatage?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, they're fucking sick." And he was like, "Oh, I got one of the CDs. I don't like this anymore. You can fucking have it." And the next day, he brought in the Hall of the Mountain King, and so that's how I got that record. And then there was, it's like everything else. It was just over time picking up the discography from there and there, and they just stuck with me. They've, unfortunately the last 8 years of the band doesn't really do anything for me, but luckily the the first 11 years of the band provided me with so much information as far as riff composition, just so many great things that I've taken with me as a guitarist in metal bands that I can forgive them for the records I don't like. And who the fuck am I anyway to say that they're not good? I'm sure lots of people do like them. I know fucking when they did the reunion concert 5 years ago at Wacken, it looks like in the videos there's several thousand German folks who were pretty fucking happy that band was back. So who the fuck am I to say that they have records that weren't any good? I just don't dig them. But they're legends to me, and they're fucking godly. And Criss Oliva is, basically, anytime I talk to people about, influences for guitar, it's almost like I have to do a podcast episode whenever I bring up Criss Oliva, because he's
right.
He's so under the radar. He's been gone he's been dead for almost 30 years.
But you have to tell that story and then talk about the guitar playing almost.
Yeah, he's so important. He's so overlooked, and he's like a ghost member of TSO. If you think about it, the best parts of Savatage that toyed with that sound, which is basically on gutter ballet, Criss Oliva was writing that stuff. Him and his brother were writing that stuff. So his legacy, again, this is why the story of this band is so bizarre in a way. His legacy is being passed along to millions of people who essentially have no idea. But these people who go to see TSO, they're getting they're getting doses of Savatage. They're getting doses subsequently of Criss Oliva as well. And so you could maybe argue that he's maybe the most famous unknown legend in the history of metal. as far as guitar is concerned, you know. So that band is yeah, I can't be thankful enough for that band. That band is just, you know, they did, you know, if they're guilty of anything, it's maybe overreaching, which is never a bad thing, I guess, depending on how you look at it. It's better to overreach and fall short than it is to just kind of falling in and not give a fuck, right?
Right, yeah.
You know, they tried, you know, in 1991, when metal is slowly being phased out and the new Seattle sound is coming in, do you think the fucking world wanted to hear a rock opera? No. Not at all. But here comes Savatage rolling out the streets, you know,
and they found a way to gain commercial success with that through a different moniker years later,
yeah,
but
exactly. I mean, they kind of fell flat on their face doing that record as far as it coming out when it did, and there's definitely an element of hokiness to it. It's mostly the theme of it that's kind of, maybe I have a bone of contention with. It's like, alright, you guys, like, to me they were so advanced as far as, like, pushing metal to new dramatic levels, and then to roll out with a rock opera about a musician who was a nobody and then became a somebody, and then ended up getting fucked up on drugs and fame, and then becoming a nobody again, and then building himself back up. Like, to me, it was all just the whole concept, even if, like, the point of it was so grandiose and risky, the concept was so pedestrian. Like, to me, it was almost disappointing that they would just reach for something so cliche as just, you know, rising star, falling star, re-rising star. You know, and I think that was just the wrong place in the history of, you know, society or pop culture or whatever to do something like that. You know, it was the wrong place and the wrong time, and in my opinion, you know, it's almost like it's a misfire for sure, but it's not like it's a 2 or a 3. You know, it gets an A+ for effort, that record, but it's probably, you know, maybe a C as far as execution is concerned. You know, it's not shitty, and there's definitely a lot of parts on that record that I enjoy, but it's just, I don't know, there's something about it that it's both glorious and overreaching and underwhelming all at once. But, you know, maybe that was just Savatage.
sure.
You know, they reach for the stars, and maybe they weren't able to pull one down at Savatage. But, you know, when they reached for them as TSO, they fucking grabbed a fucking handful of them, right?
Exactly. Strangely enough, but yeah, it takes different strokes. It's interesting. Like, there's no way there's a TSO without Savatage. Or do you disagree with that?
Is there a TSO without Savatage?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
But it's hard to imagine that. But, you know, maybe Savatage is never formed and two brothers just decide to start something like TSO and then it gets huge. I don't know. Like,
I don't. You know, honestly, I think Savatage was the step to that. I don't see how they get to TSO without
without everything happening exactly the way it did.
You know
Yeah.
what it is? You know what it is? TSO is the fucking, and stuff like gutter ballet and streets is like the foreplay.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I get that. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Good analogy.
Yeah, it's like, do they get to that without having the experience flirting with that to a lesser degree? I don't know that they do. Again, I do think if Criss Oliva does not die, I do think maybe it's possible TSO still happens. But if Savatage never existed, period, I don't think the TSO ever would have happened.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I think if Savatage was...
No, I think certain things had to happen a certain way for that to take place, so I agree with you, yeah.
I mean, you could look at it that and analyze that from two different perspectives. You could say, well, they don't have the experience or the know-how to kind of parlay the flirtiness of that sound into something more grandiose as they did with TSO. But there's also a much more simple explanation. If they don't have Savatage, they probably don't meet Paul O'Neill, who became like their big co-writer, the big co-mastermind of Savatage with the brothers, and then ultimately is responsible for TSO with John Oliva. So you could look at that from a more artistic perspective, saying, well, they don't have Savatage, the know-how of that material, they don't go on to do other things. Or again, you could just look at it simply saying, well, they don't do Savatage, they never meet Paul O'Neill. And then it just never happens, period. So,
sure.
There's a couple different ways you could look at that, but I think probably the more realistic one is if they don't do Savatage, they don't meet Paul O'Neill. And
right.
Then nothing ever happens.
Sure.
They don't have someone at that point to kind of guide them who had experience with that at that point. So.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah. Very cool. Are you satisfied with summing up your personal connection to the band?
I don't really know how to put it any other way. I mean, in a way, it's Criss Oliva's contribution to music lives on through anyone who was inspired by him. And I am one of those people.
Yep. Yep.
It might not be, I've never really played in a band that sounds like Savatage, so it might not be apparent. But also, I can't think of any other band that's ever sounded like Savatage.
No, you're absolutely right.
So maybe that's all that needs to be said about how influential Criss Oliva is.
Sure.
Or was.
Because who else sounded like that, right?
Yeah. The fact that I they're a band that, and that's probably one of the reasons why they've kind of fallen in this void of just kind of being overlooked, because at that point when they were at their peak, you kind of had to draw lines in the sand. You kind of had to be one thing or you had to be another thing. And Savatage was a multitude of things. And so, they weren't able to be kind of pinpointed as this one thing. And if you look at their material from 83 to 90, it grew exponentially. They were pretty, they were on the cusp of like the new wave of, not like thrash, but they were definitely like on the cusp of those newer, heavier bands at the time. Like Sirens came out in 1983. That's the same year as Kill 'Em All. That's the same year as Show No Mercy by Slayer.
Yep.
They were on the cutting edge of that sound, but they didn't follow the trajectory of that sound. They took a different path, and I don't know if necessarily in America, at least, the world was really looking for that to a degree. They were definitely successful to a degree here, but I think their legacy is probably bigger in Europe, I would imagine.
Sure.
But yeah, I can't think of any other band that's ever sounded like them. Just the way they shaped their songs, it all had like a dark, dramatic vibe to them, which, you know, you don't really think of dark, well, at least not back then, you don't think of dark and dramatic when, you think of a band from, like, Tampa, Florida, like...
Yeah, true.
But, if you ask all those Tampa death metal dudes from the next generation of Tampa bands, they all loved Savatage. You read interviews with Obituary. They did a fucking Savatage medley a few years ago.
Obituary did that?
Yeah, they did a show in Tampa, and they had John Oliva come up on stage and sing for them while they did Savatage covers.
Oh, dude, that's fucking awesome.
Yes, but, like, all the Tampa dudes, they all loved Savatage. I think I remember, kind of a flashback to last week's show. I remember when Sepulfile was jamming with Cam Lee, I think, because we talked about Savatage, because they were like the gods to the Florida metal kids, because they were like probably the first big Florida metal band ever. And I think Cam told me that him and Rick Ross went to go see Savatage, and Rick Ross got stabbed by a beer bottle. If I imagine that, I apologize to anyone who might be listening that either is Cam Lee or Rick Ross or knows someone who knows them, but I could have sworn Cam said that him and Rick Ross went to a Savatage gig and Rick Ross got stabbed by a beer bottle.
Holy shit.
Don't really know how relevant that is to work.
No, I think it's very relevant. Any story like that thrown in the middle of an episode is pretty relevant.
But there are bands whose influences felt in different ways. I mean, they're a huge influence to, what a lot of people consider to be the American hub of death metal, Tampa, Florida. And you talk to those bands, and they all grew up listening to Savatage. So,
that's awesome.
In a weird way, they influenced the next generation of metal bands from Florida that played in a completely different style.
Yeah, just because of geography, and that's important.
So I really hope that their band, I think, because they were essentially swallowed up by TSO. But, when you say something like that, it sounds like it's a negative thing, but, they're a band who, I think, because of TSO's success, I'm actually kind of surprised that more of a light hasn't been shined on Savatage. And I'm sure a lot of that, I'm sure John Oliva would love to have his brother's legacy, be, put on display in any way he possibly can. And I'm sure that a lot of the reason why TSO hasn't taken time to maybe expose the Savatage thing more than they have is, I would imagine, simply because, they just, Atlantic Records is going to own basically those handful of records forever. I'm sure it's a question of rights and the general, bureaucratic red tape and bullshit that, is part and parcel with the record or music industry. But I feel like that the time is right for something else, something with that band. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whether it's just they put out some tweet or some Facebook message saying something's in the works, and I really hope it's something like a documentary or something like that. They're a band that should be more than what they are. you know. And I know that I don't really know anyone who's a casual fan of them. I know they mean a lot to the people who they mean a lot to.
Nobody's really in the middle.
To the people that don't really dig them, you know, like I would like to see more awareness of that band, just because, you know, had they survived the shittiness that was the 90s, I think they would have come out on the other end and enjoyed a lot of the success that a lot of the bands that either survived or reunited are getting to enjoy nowadays. You know, Chuck Schuldiner deserved a victory lap in the 21st century.
Oh, for sure.
Savatage and Criss Oliva.
For sure. Yeah, it's a great way to put that.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, do you think we could end on that? Because that's like the most epic closing line I've heard from you.
Go with it.
Okay, so we have our plan for next week, and I'm excited about it, and we'll talk about that between now and then.
Yeah, it wouldn't have happened without it. So I'm looking forward to it in a weird way. It's uncomfortable and it's weird because it's me, but yeah, I guess anyone listening who's interested, stay tuned, kiddies.
Yeah, just stay tuned and check it out. It's gonna be fucking wild.
Yeah, sure is.
Alright, well, you have a good night, sir, and thank you.
You as well, Michael. Have an excellent evening.
Alright, see you, man.
Sure. Alright, bye.